Hello everybody, and today we are playing Everdell. Dun dun dun! Dun dun! What is that? What is that? It's a giant tree.
So this is a worker placement and tableau building game where we are little woodland creatures who are constructing a tableau of up to 15 cards in front of us. And we are acquiring the cards so that we can hopefully gain points or resources and that kind of thing. So we start with 2 workers each. On your turn, you can either place a worker and do something at that location, or you can play a card. And then at certain points in the game, you may have to recall all of your workers if you've already placed them and can't do anything else. So those are the 3 possible things you can do on your turn. The point of the game is to have the most points by the end of the game, which is when you can no longer do anything. So at a certain point, we're going to fill up our tableau of cards. We're going to have placed all of our workers, and we're not going to be able to do anything else. And for that player, that ends the game. For every other player, they continue playing until they reach that point for themselves as well. So we're going to try it. We've played it before, and we did not like it at all. But we're going to give it another shot and see how we feel about it. We're trying to be open-minded. Maybe we missed the magic the first time around, but if we don't enjoy it this time, out the door it goes.
You shall be called!
So we'll see how we feel. We are trying to be as open-minded as possible.
Yep.
I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible.
I'm trying too. It's hard, but I'm trying.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes, indeed. So we'll come back midway through the game, and yeah, we'll see how this goes. Yeah. So, okay then. Bye-bye. Hello, Sarah.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Well, it goes.
It goes, right, yeah. Yep. So we kind of mentioned at the beginning of this vlog that this is not really our kind of game. We don't really understand it. We even took...
Well, we understand it.
Well, I'm sorry.
We don't understand the attraction to
Exactly.
it.
That's what we don't understand is the attraction to this game. There are some games that come out within the board game community / industry, however you want to phrase it, and we just don't get it.
They're darlings, and people just flip their lid for them. And then I just don't think they're not at all for me, not at all. And I'm trying really hard to be open-minded here because if there is a gem here, I want to find it.
We don't want to just discount something just because we're having issues with it, and
this is so boring. This is so boring, and it's such a struggle to get anything accomplished. You have so few workers, and sure, I'm getting this engine going with my cards, right, where I can play this card, which means I can play this other card for free, and I can get all these resources for free, and blah, 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 blah. But with so few workers, it just feels like, what is the point? If I'm never going to be able to... I want to build this gigantic, huge city, and this is a tiny little village in the backwoods. I feel incredibly constrained by the limits of this game, and it's boring, and it's not fun, and it's not interesting, and it's lame.
So yeah, I mean, and then it just, okay, so what some people say about the game is it is beautiful artwork and great table presence. Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Okay, but let's even start with the artwork, though, because everybody flips lid for the artwork in this game. And sure, it's pretty enough, but if we're going for, anthropomorphic creatures, the ones in Raccoon Tycoon are literally, and heads and tails above the creatures in this game. This game, sure, it looks nice enough, but Raccoon Tycoon puts this to shame. So if we're just talking about table presence in general, Raccoon Tycoon beats this, hands down.
Yeah, it does, but we're just talking about this game in general. And it has cool artwork, but it's okay, I say that sometimes about games, and it's well, how is the actual gameplay and the fun factor? And I could just say, well, I'm sorry, it's not there. For this, I mean, we're being open-minded as much as we can.
I'm trying. I am really trying hard to be open-minded.
And this is just a game that we're having a real struggle with. I mean, what's the point of this? This whole thing, it just seems like it gets in the way, and
What is the
it's
point
kind
of
of
any
unnecessary.
of this? This it could all just be on the table. The only thing that you need the board for are these locations where you can place your workers. And I get that, like, ooh, the table presence. But to me, this is already, like, this looks like it's going to be this game, and it's nowhere near that. So then I'm like, my expectations are set at and they're not. And then it's just like frustrating. And then it's like, well, why is it this big and glorious looking if it's not, if like the gameplay isn't there at all? Why is it like this? Why does it look like it's going to be amazing and then it's not?
So it just kind of looks like there's just a bunch of fluff, honestly. You put all this work into the presentation, but then when you don't put it into the practicality and the fun, factor, and also how to the gameplay, it's just like these tokens. These tokens are just going everywhere. And, that's like a little gripe, but if, why not start with, there's even a deluxe version of this. And
I'm just not having a good time. And I don't think that the way that the game looks makes up for that at all. In fact, it's like insult to injury, because it looks like it should be really good, and then I feel like it's not. So then it's like, well, why does it look like
it seemed like you're kind
of
put into a trap of, wow, this looks so great. Yeah, I totally want to buy this. And, at conventions sometimes, you don't have a lot of time to think about, if you don't spend the time to, like, play a demo, or in some conventions you don't. Gen Con, you don't have time to sit down and play all the, because there's a lot of people, you want to move around, you want to see what you can see, and there's always something you miss.
Conventions aside, the way this game is described is a tableau building, worker placement, resource management game, right? Those are the three main things that you're doing here. It's primarily worker placement, tableau building, with some resource management in there as well. I like all those things. This is not fun. I don't know. I don't want to like harp on it. I know so many people really, really enjoy this game, but the reason that I wanted to play again today was because we've played in the past. It wasn't for us, but we thought, okay, well, maybe we just missed something.
We want to give it a fair shake before we,
Yeah. Then today I saw a Facebook post in one of the board game groups that I'm in, and somebody was like, hey, I just heard of this new game, Everdell. Obviously, like, it's not new, but they're like, I just heard of this game, Everdell, and I was wondering how it plays with 2 players. And, like, seriously, more than 25 people jumped in and were like, it's amazing at 2 players. It's such a great game. It's one of my favorite games to play with my husband or my wife or whatever, my gaming partner. And, like, so many people affirmed the, like, fantastic nature of this game, even at 2 or especially at 2. And I was like, okay, maybe we should try it again. And we're trying it again. And I'm still, like, I just don't get it. I don't understand the attraction here. Not at all.
So to summarize, this is not for us. We're gonna finish out the game. The game's like kind of picking up to where at least we'll be done in a little bit, and then we'll kind of come back for probably a short summary of what we just kind of said. Is this game isn't really for us, and these are kind of our issues with it, and it's just I mean, it looks cool, but then when you kind of dive deeper and get into it, you're just kind of disappointed. For us. Again, everyone has their opinions, everyone likes their certain games, and we're not taking that away from people that actually like this game. It's just, in our opinion, this is not fun. This is not really for a 2-player, for us.
I mean, it's working fine as a 2-player.
It's working fine than some other games that claim they can do this at a game at 2 players. But for us, this is just bleh. But we'll get back to you guys in a little bit after we finish this game. All right. Doodles. Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
So we just finished.
We did.
You stomped my face in. You had like 60 points and I had like 49 points. So yeah, there was that.
So I personally felt like the second half of the game was better than the first, but I still hated it.
Yeah. So I finished really fast. I think I
was probably playing for like 15 minutes after you, right?
Yeah, so I was sitting there for like 15 minutes.
And
I added up my score, and I was just waiting for you to do a couple things so I could finish off some other possible bonuses. But I was just sitting there, and it was just kind of like, it was silly. I was like, okay, well, now I get to watch you play. So even more, I find it even harder to believe how some people found this to be a good two-player, because if one player races through or is even like somewhat done faster than the other person, and the other person has some, is taking their time, or analysis paralysis was kicking in, and then they're just sitting there watching them play the game. And it's like, okay, that's it's even more like, why am I doing this? Why am I watching you play? Yeah, I finished faster than you did, but like, it doesn't even finish at the same time, so you both can, move on to another game and, see who the winner and loser is. So it's kind of like, okay, that's another con for me to be like, beautiful game, beautiful artwork.
I don't know. I'm not even willing to necessarily concede that point.
You don't have to concede that point. That's your opinion. In my opinion, it's pleasing, it's appealing, but at the same time, you've lured me into this appealing game, and now I've played it, and I'm like, wow, this was kind of not a waste of time. Just I want to play a game that was more, so I guess kind of a waste of time. And it was just frustrating, especially when I got finished first and I had to sit there and wait for you to be done. And it wasn't anything, it's not on the player. You didn't have analysis paralysis. You were taking
I had like
your time.
this engine, which is the whole point of the game, right? It's an engine building game, right? So I had built up a nice engine, and it was going well. I was able to feed things into my engine to get things to happen. But I mean, even though it should have been satisfying, right? It should have been satisfying to like fire off my engine and be like, oh, cool, because I have this working, then this over here is going to work, and then I'm going to be able to chain this effect over here. It should have been satisfying, and really it was just, I knew he was done, and so I was like, I wasn't trying to hurry, but I was like completely aware that the entire game was resting on me to just be finished. And
that's not fun for you, and that's not fun for the other player, because the other player's like, okay, well, when are you going to be done? And then all of a sudden you feel pressured into moving forward faster.
And I purposely, like, no offense, but I didn't feel pressured, right? I was like, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to do what I need to do.
But that's you. I'm just saying, for other players.
I was still aware of the fact that, like, you were sitting there waiting for me to be done. And then on top of that, like, even that aside, the engine that I had going, it wasn't satisfying to run the engine. And to me, that's the thing about engine building games, is that satisfaction you get when you finally get your engine working smoothly and it's cranking out resources that you can turn into points, and then, maybe you can continue to build the engine and it gets bigger and better and bigger and better. Well, like, that happened here for sure. I had a pretty solid engine going to the point that I didn't even play my workers many turns in a row. I would just continue to play cards or spend resources to do things because I had a decent engine going. But it wasn't a satisfying engine. It wasn't fun to use. It
kind of sounds like you're describing also, like, this engine kind of reminded me of Gizmos. You get to a point where you have so many things, and you're like, okay, well, now you're just wasting things, or you don't even need these certain things, and you're trying to just do it with other things. And, in that game, the engine came up quick, but then once you have an engine, then you're just like trying to like replace cards. In that game, you just don't need the cards to, if you have a good engine and it keeps going, then you can just replace it with other things that continue that good engine. And like, now cards aren't really as worth to you as before. The worth has diminished. And in this game, you had a nice engine, you were going. I was pretty much done. My engine was not better than yours, but I felt like I had my own way of playing the game, and it became faster. I was done, and I was waiting. But again, you didn't feel pressured. That's awesome. Some people will feel that kind of pressure, especially, because everyone's different at their gaming table. We are pretty, you can take your time, and I'm okay with it, and I take my time, and sometimes you're okay with it. But yeah, I mean, that's another kind of point in the game where it's just like, that's not fun for the individual. So overall, we do not Everdell's not for us.
For sure. There are multiple expansions, at least 3 that I know of. And I actually thought, before we played this again, maybe if we got one or more of the expansions. I've heard that they really do improve your experience, even if you loved it initially. Like, the expansions are supposed to, like, make it an even better experience. So I was like, okay, you know, so many people are so in love with this game. It's always getting high marks. Maybe we should get an expansion or more than one expansion to try to jazz it up and see if we like it at that point. But I just have a hard time putting more money into a game that I already don't like in the hopes that maybe then after I put more money into it, I'll like it a little bit better.
And the consumer shouldn't really have to kind of bear that burden because, you know, it's okay if your game had problems beforehand. And this is like with some games, they'll come out with like more expansions.
And I don't know that I feel like the game has problems. It works. There's no like loose ends or anything like that. I just didn't enjoy it at all. It wasn't satisfying. The engine, like I said earlier, the engine building to me in engine building games, like the thing that is contagious to me in engine building games is that feeling of like triumph when you get your engine to finally starting to turn over and you're finally starting to like generate, you know, resources or points or whatever your engine does. Like, that's the point in the game that's like, yes, this is so exciting to me. And like, that just, my engine was working very well, I thought, but like, it still wasn't a satisfying feeling. So I feel like
it's not as satisfying as, like, for example, Splendor. I feel like when Splendor's engine gets going, you know, that's one of my favorite games, and I just feel like, you know, it's a satisfying feeling. This is just not that for me. So, I mean, not knocking people that like Everdell, that's your game. There are games that I like that you probably will tear your hair out and be like, that's such a trash game or something like that. It's like, well, it's my, you know, my experience. Everyone has their own tastes and, you know, preferences, and that's kind of what makes, you know, the gaming hobby exciting. Like, okay, we can't agree on this game. Let's move on to another game that we can both agree on. And, I mean, have different experiences with. So.
But I think you and I can agree that this game is not for us.
Yes, we can agree that this game is not for us and that it will be cold.
Yeah. And I was actually so angsty about my frustrations with this game that I was like, maybe instead of even selling it or trading it away, maybe I will destroy it and use some of the components to do other things with, like crafting or something like that, because I personally am having such a hard time finding value in this game that I'm like, I don't even want to try to sell it. I know it's really popular and I totally could sell it, no problem. But I'm almost like, I might as well just rip it apart, make it into an art project or something like that. Because to me, that's how little value this experience had in it.
All right, well, that is Everdell for you from our perspective and our opinions. So, yeah. Until next time, toodles!